guys, my name's Chris Barris and I'm going to be taking you through a 10-part series to help you to improve your blues rock soloing. We're going to be looking at a bunch of different things. It's kind of aimed at beginner to intermediate, but even some more advanced players might find something in there in the later lessons that they can make use of. I'm always amazed at how many advanced players I come across that can't make a 12-bar blues sound good. So I'm going to be looking at some problems that I found that students of my own have come across, and just to look at some things to try and help you break out of the typical box shapes that maybe you've got stuck in. And talking of box shapes, the good old Minor Pentatonic Scale, we're just going to start off with that first of all, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page and everyone's aware of what's going on. And I'm sure everyone watching this already knows position 1 at the very least, if not all 5 positions. I'm just going to glance over this quickly. The lesson isn't about just learning some shapes. The tab will come up on the screen, so I'm just going to go over this very quickly. If you don't know the 5 shapes of the pentatonic, then I suggest maybe just stick on that section of the video to start off with and just get those shapes drilled in. The idea of this lesson is going to be looking at some licks within each of those shapes. So I've come across a lot of players that, you know, they're very comfortable in position 1, whatever, but they'll do a whole solo just there and won't move from that position. And I'll say to them, well, do you know the 5 shapes of the pentatonic? And they'll be like, yeah, sure. And they'll rattle up and down them, but can't actually make them sound musical or make any licks with them. So scale shapes are useless unless you can make them sing, unless you can talk with them. We're going to look at the 5 shapes, and then we're going to look at licks that we can do within the 5 shapes that hopefully give you some ideas if you've been struggling to make them sound good. So I'll just play through the 5 shapes now. The tab will come up on the screen. Okay, you'll notice that when I played the shapes, I always made sure that I resolved each one to an A note. Okay, that's the root note. That will help with your ears, and it also helps to know where the root notes are when you're playing in any given key. So when you're practicing those scale shapes, make sure you think where the root notes are, the A notes, and then try to resolve any of the scales to that note, or at least be aware of where they are. Then once you get to grips with that, try and move them to different keys. Let's start off with some licks then. We're just going to do 1 or 2 licks in each shape. They're nothing groundbreaking, but it might just give you a few ideas of which notes to bend, which notes to slide. And I'm also going to be looking at adding the flat 5 note, which is known as the blues note or the blue note. And that is what will really help to make your licks sound more bluesy. So just a couple of quick examples. That note there. You know, on its own, it sounds a little bit out of tune. It sounds a bit tense. But when you bring it back down, it resolves and it sounds nice and bluesy. Okay, this first lick, I'm going to play it up to speed first of all, but with all of these licks that we're going to be doing, the idea isn't really just to learn them like parrot fashion exactly how I play it at a given tempo. You can play it at whatever speed you want. You can play around with the timing. It doesn't matter if you want to hold a bend a little bit longer. The idea is just to help you to start making some music with the scale shapes rather than just rattling up and down the strings. Okay, so the first one. Okay, so we start off with a bend on the 7th fret G string, and this is a full tone bend. We're then going to use our first finger to come up into the E string on the 5th fret, and we play E, B, E string, B string. We're then going to come to the 8th fret on the B, and we bend a tone. Now this is going to be a bend and release. We bend it up, bring it back down, and then we come to 5. So all the licks so far. We're then going to come to the 7th fret on the G string, and we do the same thing. So we bend up a tone, we release it, and we pull off to the 5th fret on the G. And then we resolve it to the root note here. So the first part of the lick. Now if you're new to bending, a quick exercise just to make sure that you're bending in tune. Okay, when I'm on the 8th fret here, if I'm doing a tone bend, I'm aiming to play the 10th fret. So a little exercise, play 10, go back 2 frets, and then if we're here, play the 9th, so you can practice bending in tune. Okay, so the lick so far. We're then going to do this double stop idea, which is where you play 2 notes together at the same time. So we hammer from 5 to 7 on the D. We're then going to play 5 and 5 on the G and the B strings. We then do this little grace note. We're going to hold our first finger here because we're going to need it for fretting the top E string. We do this little grace note from 7 up to 8. Now this is hitting the blues note that I mentioned. Now what we're going to do is as we hit that, we're going to use our middle finger to pick the top E string. Okay, it's using hybrid picking. So we hit the G string with our plectrum and we hit the top string with our middle finger. So we go as we slide up to the 8th and then do it again. On its own that sounds horrific, but when it's in the lick, it sounds nice and bluesy. So let's do that one all the way through. And finish with a 5 to 7 hammer on. Okay, for the second lick, we're going to move up to position 2. I'll play it through to start with. Okay, so we start off on the 10th fret on the E string, we bend up, we're then going to come back down and we play 10, 8, 10. We then come back to the 8th fret and we do this like quarter tone bend. It's just like a little sleigh, just bend it up slightly. And that will just help make it a little bit more bluesy. That actually touches upon something that we're going to be looking at later on in the series, which is where we bend a minor third to a major third. We'll come on to that later on. It's commonly used in blues playing. So far. And when we're here, we pull off to 8, and then we finish on the root note, 10th fret on the B string. Okay then, for the second part of the lick, we slide from 7 to 10. We then hammer on 7 to 9, and then we do a tone and a half bend. Now, that's kind of like a Gary Moore kind of thing. Obviously, to bend it that far, you've got to put a bit more oomph into the bend. So we're making the 9th fret sound like the 12th fret. We then bring that back down and we pull off 9 to 7. And then we just finish off with a slide up to the root note of A, 8 to 10 on the B string. The timing can be nice and loose on this, play around with it, make it your own. You don't have to adhere to strict timing or what I've written in the tab or anything like that. Play around with it. It's just to give you some ideas of which notes to bend, which notes to resolve to, things like that. So I'll play the lick all the way through slowly. And up to speed. Okay, now we're going to move up into position 3. I'll play the lick all the way through. Okay, now we're starting off with this little run into the bend. Now this is designed to be 16th notes, so 4 notes in a beat. And this lick's coming in before beat 1. So you'd count 1, 2, 3. So you'd hit that bend on beat 1. There's like a little lead into it. 1, 2, 3. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4. So as soon as that beat 4 hits, you play these first 4 notes. So let's go through it. 10th fret on the B string, you hammer on to 13 on the B. We're then going to hammer on 10 to 12 on the E string. Now I'm going to use my first and second fingers here so that I've got my third finger available for the bend. We're then going to bend it up again and do a bend and release. We then come to the 10th fret on the B, 12 on the G, 13 on the B, and then resolve to the A note on the 10th. Okay, next up, still in position 3, we've got this triplet lick, okay? Now triplets are 3 notes per beat. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm sure most of you have played them at some point. In blues, rock playing, it comes up all the time, whether it's 3 per beat or twice as fast as that 16th note triplets, which would be 6 per beat. I'll play it all the way through. Okay, now this one is also using the flat 5 note. We're putting it in up here. That's the 4th, the 5th, and that's the flat 5 there. Okay, so we start off hammering 9 to 12, and then 10 on the B. That's our first triplet. The next one is we hammer on to 13 on the B. We then go 10, 11, 12, and then back down. All hammer-ons and pull-offs. We then come back to the 11th. We're going to pick this one, pull off to the 10th, 13 on the B. We then come back to the 10th on the E, 13 on the B, pull off to 10. And then the last bit, we play 13 to 10, pull off again, 12 from the G, and then we resolve it to the A on the B string, 10th fret. All the way through. Okay, now we come up to position 4. I'll play the lick all the way through. Okay, this is a very common thing used in blues playing, which is called a call and response. It's where you play like one lick, one little phrase, and then you play another one which kind of answers it. So they'll normally have some similarities in phrasing, note choices, but then they'll probably have a slightly different ending. So we start off on the 15th fret on the B string. We bend it up a tone. We're then going to bend it up again and then release it and pull off to the 13th. We then go back to the 15th, back to the 13th. We then come to the 14th on the G string, and we play that, and pull off to 12, and then we go back to the 14th. And we hold that with a bit of vibrato before coming in with the second half of the lick. Okay, for the next part of the lick, I'm going to slide 12 to 14 on the G, but I'm going to use my second finger because I need my third finger available for the bend that's coming up next. 12 to 14 on the G, my first finger goes to the 13th fret on the B, my third finger goes to the 15th fret on the B, and then I bend it up. And we're going to hold it up there because my little finger's then going to come on and play the E string underneath, same fret. And you let the two ring out together. We're then going to do a bend and release, 15th fret, bring it back down, pull off to the 13th. We're then going to come back to the 15th and we play 15, 13. We then go to the 14th on the G, we pull off to 12, and then we're going to finish off with a bend up to the root note on the E string. So we start off on the 15th fret, and we bend up to the A to finish off the lick. So the second half of the lick. One more time. We're going to do this lick in the low octave position. I'll play it through at a normal speed to start off with, then we'll break it down from there. Okay, this lick is played using 16th notes, that's 4 notes per beat. And we're going to start off on the 2nd fret. We hammer on the D string, we go from 2 to 5. I play this in 2 different ways. Sometimes I use my pick, sometimes I'll do it with hybrid picking. So I'll pluck the higher string with my middle finger. It's up to you to try out and see whichever you feel comfortable with or like the sound of. So we hammer on 2 to 5 on the D. We then go 2nd fret on the G, and then back to the 5 on the D. I'm then going to roll this finger, my little finger down on the 5th fret to the G string, and then come back to the same fret, D string. And then we finish on the A on the G, 2nd fret G string. We then come down lower, and we're going to go on the E string, 3 to 5, 3 on the A. So we go 3 to 5 on the E, 3 on the A. We then play the 5th and we bend it straight away. Bring it back down, off to 3. And then we go back to the A note on the E string. Pull off to the 3rd fret. And then finish off on the A note there. I'll do that second half all the way through. And I'll do the lick all the way through. Okay, have fun with those licks. Next time we're going to have a look at linking the shapes together, so playing licks between 2 or more positions of the pentatonic scale. So make sure you're up to scratch with all of those. Remember, you don't have to learn these licks exactly as they are. Play around with them, take what you can from them and try to make them your own.